Well, it just strikes me as amazing, having watched Donald Trump really since 2015 when he came on the political stage, but even before that, you know what he does. He's very open about what he does. He sets these traps. What do you make of the fact that the Democrats don't have even the canniness to hide the fact that they are now beholden to this Democrat socialist agenda, and they're having their purity tests out there on the main stage? It seems insane to me.
Yeah, it was very much an own goal. All they had to do is show some sense of unity, some sense of sanity, and yet they didn't. And the State of the Union has historically been a moment where people can cross the aisle, and I think they had that opportunity, not necessarily to agree with the president or agree with the Republicans, but just to have some sense of normalcy and to not support some of the statements that the president made just made them look really radical. And I think the president, of course, wanted to do that, and they fell right into the trap, and he took advantage of it. And it's really a shame for the Democrats.
Well, we saw an awful lot of support in all the snap polls for the president's speech, and I think he was helped by things like Ilhan Omar. Just have a look at this, her behavior there in the gallery.
You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself. Who blocked the removal of criminal aliens? In many cases, drug lords, murderers all over our country. They're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
I'm old enough to remember when people were mad that somebody yelled, "You lie," at Barack Obama when he was delivering a State of the Union address a decade ago. The Democrats have really there's no decency here.
No, they've lost their minds. And even the House Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries, asked his people not to make fools of themselves and to behave well and use some decorum, and they failed. So he can't even control the radical progressive left in his own party. And I think, again, it made the president look good. The president, he's very candid, as you said, and you knew there'd be some showmanship. You knew that the president is entertaining that way. It doesn't mean everybody likes what he's saying, but you knew it was coming, and yet they just couldn't handle it, and they really lost control. And that's, again, going to be great, campaign clips for Republicans come November.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I spoke at the top of the show about Gavin Newsom and some of the comments he made to CNN about how the Democrats need to start acting more normal on these things. But there are a few other Democrats like John Fetterman, and now he's causing a big stir because he's actually being one of the normal ones. He said after the address that he was embarrassed by the actions of someone in his party. Have a look at this.
When half the people in my party haven't showed up, and then some of them have chosen to just yell and say and scream during all of it, I just don't think that's what we want. And I don't believe, as a Democrat, I think like dancing frogs really moves the ball for us as a party either.
Greg, he's got 73% Republican approval in his state, according to the latest Quinnipiac poll.
Yeah.
Why hasn't he just come across to the Republicans? Because there's no love lost with him and the Democrats.
No, and the Democrats will not forgive him for the things that he's said and the things that he's done, in supporting, the Republicans in not shutting down the government, for example, is a great one. Look, John Fetterman is a liberal. He is a traditional Democrat. It would be, I think, difficult for him to come over and be a Republican, but I don't think his own colleagues are going to forgive him for this. Look what they did to Larry Summers, ultimately, had to leave his position at Harvard because he criticized Joe Biden during the reckless spending in the Biden years, suggesting that it would lead to inflation, which of course it did. So look, if you go against the Democrat, litmus tests or purity tests, they will crush you for it. And they did it to Kristen Sinema, they did it to Joe Manchin, and they'll do it to John Fetterman. So I'm glad he's there. There's one sane Democrat. He was very respectful. He put a suit on. He's not a big fan of wearing a suit and tie. I thought he had a great joke. He said he owns more hoodies than he owns suits. But, he respects the office. He respects the traditions and decorum. And so he showed up and was polite and didn't disagree with the president verbally, even if he disagreed with him personally. And so, look, again, he's showing that he's the adult in the room, but there's not that many John Fettermans left in the Democrat Party.
Before I let you go, just quickly, I need to get your thoughts on where things are up to with the SAVE Act, which is this very important piece of legislation around showing voter ID. Oh, my gosh, what a revolutionary idea. Now, it's gone through the House, but it seems to be hung up in the Senate. There's a lot of machinations, including I see some talk of a spoken filibuster to try and get it through. Tell us how this all works. Where does this go? Does it have a chance, or will it be blocked with the help of some establishment Republicans who just want to score a win against Trump?
My guess is it will be blocked, but by the Democrats. I cannot imagine a Republican would vote against this. The issue polls, the voter ID polls at 84%. That's overall, not with Republicans. It polls in the 90s with Republicans, and with Democrats, it polls at 76%. So it's clearly an 80-20 issue. It makes common sense, obviously. Every Western country, practically every country in the world, requires photo ID. We have to show photo IDs in America to fly on a plane, to buy alcohol, to buy cigarettes. It's completely obscene. And yet they're going to die on the Hill. And I think what will happen is the Senate leadership will force this vote, even though they know they might not have the votes to pass it. You need 60 votes. We only have a slim majority in the Senate. So we'll get the 52 Republicans, but he wants to make sure that those Democrats have to state publicly their arguments against this bill and then actually vote. And that will just be another great campaign ad for Republicans, especially ones running against these Democrats that vote against it. It's, again, a classic 80-20 issue, makes no sense. And they're calling it racist, and yet the mayor of New York insists that if you want to get a job shoveling snow in New York, you have to have 2 forms of ID. The hypocrisy is just absolutely sickening.
And I saw a clip the other day, Greg, that they said that in Somalia now they're issuing voter ID cards. So if it's good enough for Ilhan Omar's people, it should be good enough for Americans. Greg Swenson, thank you so much for joining me.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.